Is there a bigger positional loss anywhere in the country than Tyler Boyd moving on to the NFL and the Cincinnati Bengals from the Pitt wide receiver position? Mark Rogers TV running down as many positional units as we can possibly get to, stopping in the ACC at Pitt, bringing in Jim Hammett of Cardiac Hill to help us with these young receivers. Jim, thanks so much for joining us. I think it's Dontez Ford would be the number one guy at this point. It would appear to be from last season's production. Can you set things up for us?
Yeah, Dontez Ford is definitely coming in looking to be probably the top receiving option. He had 26 catches last year, 500 yards, a couple touchdowns. He was a big play guy. He averaged 19 yards a catch. So, I don't want to say he's like the number one receiver. I still feel like that job's open, but he's going to start. He's one of the top two guys. He lacks some certain things like Boyd brought to the table. So it's going to be interesting because, it's such an important position. Like you mentioned with Tyler Boyd, he meant so much to this offense. He caught 91 passes last year. He's Pitt's all-time leader in receptions and receiving yards. So it's tough to replace a guy like that, but you're going to start with Dontez Ford. Beyond that, then you look down at what else they had. They had Zach Challingsworth with 12 catches last year. He's their second leading returning receiver. So it gets very murky after that. So it's all about some of the younger guys that are going to need to step up this season.
Yeah, despite just 26 receptions out of Ford, you mentioned he was pretty productive against the ACC, so he wasn't getting those catches against the lesser non-conference foes, a couple touchdowns against Duke and Louisville in key wins down the stretch. Challingsworth, with his first year under his belt, he had his best day against Duke, 3 catches, 57 yards, and his lone touchdown for the year. Do we know much at this point about Elijah Zeise or Kadri Henderson, who came out as a top 100 wide receiver, according to ESPN a couple of years ago?
Well, right now, actually, Elijah Zeise, he did move to outside linebacker. They're going to try to bulk him up a little bit and play on the defensive side of the ball. So that hurts the numbers a little bit. And also recently, Jaquan Davidson, another athletic young guy that hasn't played much, he just decided to transfer. So, it's starting to become more clear who's going to play simply out of who's left. Kadri Henderson is definitely going to get a lot of looks in the slot. In the spring game, he didn't have any catches, but he had 4 rushes and one went for 60-some yards for a touchdown. So he's an explosive playmaker, 5'10", 190 pounds, just a quick guy, someone they can get out in space. So you look at him, and there's a guy, another redshirt freshman, didn't play, or his sophomore, he barely played last year. Trey Tipton, a local Pittsburgh kid. They're pretty excited about him. He had a big spring camp, so he's another guy to watch out for. And one more is Jester Weah. He looks the part. He's 6'3", 190 pounds, state sprinting champion out of Wisconsin. But he's a junior, and he has never recorded a catch. He looks the part. It's just a matter of him translating it to the field. So he's a guy that's going to get every opportunity in the world to play this season.
Jim Hammett joining us from Cardiac Hill to size up the Pitt wide receiver core and also the tight ends as we move to that position, Jim. Not only does Ohio NFL teams steal your top wide receiver in Tyler Boyd, but also your top pass-catching tight end in J.P. Holtz going to the Cleveland Browns, 24 receptions, 4 touchdowns. It appears as though Scott Orndorff would be the guy to take his place. Again, minimal production, but he had 5 touchdown catches, 3 against ACC teams, caught a touchdown at Iowa as well.
Yeah, Scott Orndorff is definitely a type of player where I think he would have started for a lot of teams otherwise. J.P. Holtz was a 4-year starter, one of the most important players in the Pitt program the past couple of years with all the turnover. He was just that one constant. But you look at Orndorff, he's a big kid, maybe not quite the blocker J.P. Holtz is, but he has a lot of skills. He as you mentioned, 5 touchdown passes. He has 23 career catches. 8 of them have gone for touchdowns. So almost a third of the time he catches the ball, it's a touchdown. So he has that kind of production. But after that, there's definitely a significant drop-off. Jamar Parrish is technically listed as a tight end. He kind of plays more of an H-back, fullback role. Devin Edwards has been primarily used as a blocker, and they moved Zach Poker, an old linebacker, to tight end to help fill out the depth. The one interesting thing about the tight end position, which I don't think Pitt's going to benefit from this season, is the incoming transfer of Chris Clark from UCLA. He was a one-time top tight end recruit in the country, and it's looking like he's probably going to have to sit out this year, despite only playing 1/4 of a game for UCLA last season. I'm sure you've heard the stories of Chris Clark. He committed to a bunch of different schools and would back out of his commitment, that kind of thing. He's finally settled on a Pitt, and he's very talented. And if they could get him eligible this season, it would really make a world of difference.
Jim, that one flew by me. Chris Clark, I remember his signing day in Connecticut. He actually showed up at ESPN because it was basically down to UCLA and Michigan. Yeah, he was the top guy at that position. So I missed that one, him coming to Pitt. That could be huge if he's focused on football and ready to play next season.
Yeah, absolutely. It sounded like he's probably not going to be eligible to play, but he is the #1 tight end coming out of his class. I mean, he's really talented. I think he was committed to North Carolina, Michigan. Even in this recent transfer cycle, he went to Syracuse, then Pitt. So he's always had a lot of indecision in his, about where he's going to go play for college. But I think he has a good relationship with Pat Narduzzi, and that kind of led to him finding his way at Pitt.
Jim, I've got to ask you how you like the new script look. I'm guessing from the new hat purchase that you're in agreement with it. That's kind of the look from the heyday, I guess. 1973 to 96 were the years that I saw.
Yeah, that's correct. Johnny Majors, the national championship winning coach, he actually designed the logo. He kind of modeled it after the UCLA. He kind of liked it. He thought it was a cool look. So it's not like a historical, like from forever ago. I mean, it had its course, but it was universally beloved by the Pitt fan base. The old athletic department wanted to rebrand. But the new athletic director came in, Scott Barnes, and said, look, we have this logo. Everyone likes it. And so, he made it a goal of his to put it together. And, this week we had a uniform unveiling for all the teams. Everyone's going back to the script, not just football. So everyone's pretty excited about it.
Yeah, when I think Pitt football, I think Jackie Sherrill. Even though Majors won the national championship, I started watching around that Jackie Sherrill era. Tony Dorsett, one of my all-time favorites, and, of course, Dan Marino, who could forget what he did for Pitt football and moving on to the NFL. All right, Jim Hammett from Cardiac Hill, sizing up wide receivers for Pitt. Thanks so much, Jim.
Thanks, Mark.